I'm proud to be the president for the workers, not the outsourcers. The president who stands up for Main Street, not Wall Street, who protects the middle class, not the political class, and who defends America, not trade cheaters all over the globe. They're trade cheaters. They cheated on us. They cheated with tariffs on us.
President Trump, very busy again yesterday and last night. The man does not sleep. He's doing stuff. He had a big event with coal miners yesterday at the White House, and then the National Republican campaign, yada, yada. And a lot of big stuff going on. President Trump has to come out on top of all this. It's big. You'd say it's a big gamble. It's a big negotiation is what it is. And there's a lot of talk. You know, the Democrats, they really want to see economic catastrophe in the United States because, you know, that would be good for them, for the Democrats. What's bad for America is once again good for the Democrat Party. Womp, womp, womp. Yes, sir. We've got a lot going on Capitol Hill, Washington. Washington, D.C. shouldn't be occupying this much of our time in the United States of America, but that's certainly where we are right now. And some follow-up on a couple of things we were talking about yesterday, too, about the would-be assassin that was grabbed outside of Brett Kavanaugh's house who wanted to assassinate 3 Supreme Court justices. He is, what have we determined about him? Oh, he's a Democrat. Now I remember. He's a Democrat, and he had a plan, and he was plotting, just madness, plotting to kill 3 United States Supreme Court justices. And I'm sure the Democrats got an absentee ballot to him in prison because they know the prison vote is pretty much a lock for the Democrat Party. The incarcerated people, they just call them voters. They're just voters for the Democrats. We got that. And a bit of an update also on the guy that was nabbed trying to assassinate President Trump, not Supreme Court justices, a different assassination plot by a different Democrat. And this guy was plotting with a Ukrainian guy trying to get a rocket-propelled grenade or even a surface-to-air shoulder-launched missile, a Stinger missile, to shoot down President Trump's airplane, Trump Force One, his private Boeing 757 with the name Trump on the side. I think Trump derangement syndrome is, it's a dangerous malady. There is no doubt about it. The Democrat Party, the party of presidential assassinations and terrorism and all that stuff, they're really on a tear these days. They're really some. We've got a bunch of that. But President Trump, he was with the Republicans last night, and he was with coal miners yesterday. And a lot of good stuff and funny stuff out of this because he's funny. And the funnier he is, the crazier the Democrat Party gets. And I'm not sure how much crazier they can get, quite honestly, because they're pretty crazy. Stop firebombing things, all right? Stop shooting people, Democrat Party. At what point, I asked the question yesterday, at what point do we declare the Democrat Party to be a terrorist organization? How many people do you have to shoot? How many places do you have to bomb? How many suicide attacks do your people have to launch? Murderous, insane suicide attacks. Just amazing stuff, I got to tell you. But we've got that coming up. Now, the headlines from yesterday, the Associated Press. Trump disrupts global economic order, even though the U.S. is dominant. That's the Associated Press headline. He disrupts the globe. You know, I think it needed some disruption. It needed disrupting the trade imbalances that the United States has with country after country. Have you seen the list? You've got to scroll on the TV screen. You got to run like a minute-long scroll of all of the countries with which the United States has terrible, awful trade agreements where we come out on the losing end of everything, and that's bad for everyone in the United States of America. Also, we got another story out of California. The Democrats, they love their illegal aliens, and they've got sexual issues with children. There's no doubt about that. I think, is it everyone in the Democrat Party, Michael, or is it just most of them? We're going to have to take a poll, maybe a scientific survey. Amazing stuff. But we've got another story, this time out of California, an illegal alien, a man who's an illegal alien, who apparently is a career gay child molester, and Democrats love that. That's one of their areas hey, like gender queer in school for the little boys. Hey, let's bring it into the kindergarten class. You people are mental. Is that okay to say that they're mental? Suffering from mental little personism. It used to be dwarfism, but that's not considered to be. They're mental midgets. You can't say that, though, unless you're talking about the little automobile, the MG midget. Then I think you can still say it. But remarkable stuff. So an illegal alien in California who has a history of molesting little boys. And you know what the Democrats did? They gave him a job as a soccer coach for a boys' team. And now he's been arrested. This time, he's been arrested before, and he's been accused before. And the Democrats didn't deport him. They didn't. They just kind of, oh, that's okay. You know, we all do it. And now he's murdered a little boy after sexually abusing him. And that's the Democrat Party kind of in a nutshell. How did they get into that nutshell? Pretty amazing stuff. That's an amazing story. I'll update you on that because the Democrats really, there's something terribly wrong with them. Very, very wrong. We've got another judge intervening the Trump White House on whether the Trump White House can decide which news organizations have the highest privileges in the White House to be, hey, come on into the Oval Office. We got the president in here for you. Hey, come on, Air Force One. You can, you're in the travel pool and the tight pool. You know, they pool their resources there sometimes. And whether the Associated Press can do it because they've kind of established themselves as a political organization, foolishly. They've stepped in it again and again. And we've got a judge that has intervened on that front with no regard for what the history, you don't have to go back very far in history, just to the Biden administration, excluding press organizations like the New York Post, for example, because they were reporting true, accurate, factual information about Hunter Biden's laptop and the Biden family and the big guy and 10% cut for the big guy. And the New York Post breaking news about the Biden family, which is a very corrupt political family. And the Biden White House excluded and froze out the New York Post. And the rest of the media was basically fine with that because they figure the New York Post is not their newspaper. So they're fine. They're not defenders of the First Amendment. They're defenders of the Democratic Party. So I've got a story on another judge. It's an immigration judge intervening on, that's not the immigration judge. That's a different one. But we got another immigration judge today, too. Amazing stuff. And President Trump and China in where they're communists and they have about 1 billion slaves that they beat with whips and knock the children to the ground and force them to make your iPhone for you because we pay less. Say, oh, sure, slavery leads to less expensive goods on our grocery store shelves and at the Apple store, that's for sure. And now Trump tariffs. China hits back, the communists with their slaves. China hits back by raising tariff on U.S. goods to 84% after Trump's reciprocal duties take effect. President Trump is now talking about tariffs on communist China of 104%. 100 was not enough, so 104%. I've got to say, my best girl and I, we comment frequently. It's a regular conversation. Anything you buy, go to the hardware store, go to the furniture store, go to the clothing store. Pretty much everywhere you go, and we go, like, for example, at the Chris Plant store on Al Gore's amazing internet. Work with our great friend Randy Lefebvre, and we sell T-shirts and coffee mugs, and they're wonderful. And you should go to the Chris Plant store on Al Gore's amazing internet. Peace be upon him, and get your Remember Normal T-shirt or coffee mug and all kinds of good regular American stuff. But one of the things we won't do is use anything made in China. We won't sell you T-shirts made in communist China. We won't sell you coffee mugs made in communist China. we have a prohibition, self-imposed, that we don't want to use slave labor to drive the prices down on anything that we sell in the Chris Plant store on Al Gore's Amazing Internet, because slavery is bad. I'm against slavery. The Democrat Party, being the party of historical slavery in the United States of America, they're fine with little Chinese children working their fingers to the bone under bridges late at night, being rained on to make you a pair of gym shoes with a Nike swoosh on it, because LeBron James, loves the slave labor. He loves slavery because it helps put money in his pocket with which he can buy fuel for his jet, because it's different being on the left. Very, very different indeed. So President Trump battling the communist Chinese who have been fleecing us and ripping us off in myriad ways for a long, long time. And I've got updates for you on that as well. Also, the Democrat Senator Mark Warner. Isn't he like a billionaire? He's worth $300 million or something like that, Mark Warner. It's good to be a Democrat, isn't it? Defends Australia, and that Australia won't buy American beef, for example, for steaks and burgers and things. And Democrat Senator, this headline says, U.S. Senator Mark Warner defends Australia in heated debate with Jamieson Greer as Donald Trump's trade war continues. They don't mention he's a Democrat who is defending the Democrat Party. And, yeah, of course, we shouldn't have fair trade with Australia. What are they, friends of ours or something? So a little back and forth in Capitol Hill during a hearing yesterday, and we got some of that for you coming up. Amazing stuff. And President Trump to sign executive orders to help dying U.S. coal industry. You know why the U.S. coal industry is dying? Because the Democrat Party is choking it to death. That's the Democrat Party. They're saving the world. They're slowing the rise of the oceans. Except they're not saving the world. They're endangering the world. And they're not slowing the rise of the oceans. I expect if the Democrats' goal is to slow the rise of the oceans, that they will actually increase the rate of rise in the oceans around the world, because they produce the opposite of their stated results, whether they are their intended results or not. They're an amazing bunch. They certainly are. Yes, they're defending illegal aliens until they kill. And then they shrug and they say, well, I don't know, I'm going to Starbucks. Whatever, don't worry about that. So little boys are being sexually assaulted and murdered by illegal aliens. The Democrats, they're fine with that. No problem. So we've got all kinds of good stuff and a couple of updates from yesterday, too. Yes, sir. And the news media battling. And then IRS chief, the Internal Revenue Service. Everybody loves them, especially tax season coming up. IRS chief quits after Doge and Trump immigration officials rampage through agency. Oh, no. You want to find out if illegal aliens are dodging taxes? And, well, how do illegal aliens pay taxes? Well, they get jobs and they get paychecks, and there's withholding in the paychecks. And the Doge people would like to find out about that. But these militant, lunatic, permanent bureaucracy types, they will defend everything illegal and will never defend or do the right thing by the United States of America or by American taxpayers. Absolutely kooky. I'm telling you, they're creepy and they're kooky. Altogether ooky. Yes, sir. And I like this one, too. The Department of Homeland Security yesterday revoked parole, that's what the Democrats called it under Biden, for hundreds of thousands who entered the United States by way of a Customs Border Protection. They call it the CBP-1 app, because the Democrats, they went down to Central America and taught people, gave them flyers and stuff. Here's how you download the app. They're suffering, but they've got iPhones. And here's how you download the CBP-1 app so you can get into the United States. And Biden will give you parole by the hundreds of thousands, maybe more than 1 million. And the Trump administration said that was a lot of bourgeois. We're going to cancel that. You know, the Democrats love to cancel sane things like women and children. You know, when they say women and children first, it has a totally different meaning than it used to have. Very, very different indeed. Also, Dan Bongino, our friend Dan Bongino, Deputy Director at the Federal Bureau of Investigation, has now been assigned a bodyguard detail, the likes of which few government officials see. And the reason is so many Democrats are threatening to murder Dan Bongino that he needs a giant security detail because the left is here, and they are the third world. They bring with them the third world. Got a new military budget, and it's bigger than ever. That's kind of interesting. And I got an AOC update for you, too. We're at 888-630-9625. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. Hot dog. All right, let us go to the telephones, Michael, and talk to the nice American people. Although Democrats are welcome to call in, too. If you want to take a break from firebombing things and plotting with Ukrainians to perpetrate assassinations for a minute, you can always call in here and try to explain yourself, which I would imagine would be quite difficult. 888-630-9625. All are welcome. This is America, not Democrat Commieland. Let's go to Brian, calling from Front Royal, Virginia. Brian, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris. Thanks for taking my call, and thanks for having a great American show.
Heck yeah.
So I want to talk about President Trump and his tariffs, which I think are brilliant, and especially with China. So China, that's got $1 trillion. We've got $1 trillion deficit. They've got $1 trillion surplus in trade with the United States. And they say they're going to fight us until the end. And I'm just wondering, the end of what? The end of the Chinese Communist Party? The end of their country? Because they've got a lot more to lose than we do. And so this is going to destroy them if they don't come to President Trump groveling for a deal.
As President Trump has indicated, a whole panoply of countries have already done. Coming to him, in fact, yesterday he used a somewhat rough word describing how they came to kiss his, not his ring, but we'll get to that coming up. And the $1 trillion trade deficit, which the Democrats are fine with because they love slavery and the bullwhip, and they're not on the side of civilization. And the left, you say that China has a lot to lose. Here's one of the things you got to keep your eyes peeled when it comes to China. They don't care about humanity. You know, they've murdered between 50 million and 75 million of their own people. It sounds absolutely implausible, but all of the historical and scientific research proves that that's true. Between 50 million and 75 million of their own people. They don't care about humanity. They don't care about their slave force of more than 1 billion people. And they're here to conquer the world in the 21st century, so it's time we stood up. Now, this is a fun one. The radical leftists at the Seattle Times. Are they rioting in Seattle today, Michael? As you know how the Democrats love to burn and loot and plunder, and Seattle has been a favorite. Didn't they create a CHOP or a CHAD or something there where they murdered several people, the Democrat Party? The story they have today, pronouns in your bio. Pronouns in your bio. You put pronouns, they, them, she, her, him. Don't know what your... the headline is, pronouns in your bio, you may not get a response from the White House. Oh, no, pronouns in your bio, you may not get a response from the White House. Some Trump administration officials have declined to answer questions from several journalists on the basis of their email signatures because they put their pronouns in. And, is there a clearer sign that you're a politically active leftist who is gender dysphoric and confused, I got to say. And going back and forth with my great friend Anna, producer extraordinaire at Newsmax TV, this morning, and this great headline, pronouns in your bio, you may not get a response from the White House. I've got to say, remember normal. Remember normal. And that goes back to the Chris Plant story on Al Gore's Amazing Internet, because we have T-shirts and coffee mugs that simply and eloquently say, remember normal, because somebody's got to remember normal. If we're ever going to bring it back, this is becoming like a post-apocalyptic movie, at least culturally speaking, because Democrats. But I think it's pretty hilarious that some Trump administration officials, I got an email from this guy at the New York Times, but is it a guy? Because it's a guy, his name is Roger, but he goes by she, they, and uses the HOV lanes when he's by himself because he's plural, and so doesn't respond. I think, that's good. I'm not sure if I've ever responded to an email that had pronouns in there. I'm sure that I've received emails that have pronouns in there, but I'm not certain that I ever responded to one of those, because why would you? Man. The New York Times has the same thing. Trump White House won't respond to some journalists because of their pronouns. I guess the Seattle Times stole it from the New York Times, because it's all a great big circle fest in a hot tub. It's the Democrat Party. These people. That's about all I have to say about them. But the Trump administration formally barred federal workers from listing their preferred pronouns in email signatures. That's fine with me. Calling it a symptom of a misguided gender ideology, which the New York Times put in quotation marks, gender ideology. Some White House officials are taking a similar approach with the journalists who cover them on at least three occasions. At least three occasions, they say recently in the New York Times. Senior Trump press aides have refused to engage with reporters' questions because the journalist listed identifying pronouns in their email signatures. Are they unsure themselves? Or might casual passersby be unsure whether they're dealing with a man or a woman? Are they cross-dressing RuPaul fans? What is going on with all that? So New York Times is very upset about that. As a matter of policy, we do not respond to reporters with pronouns in their bios. Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, wrote to a New York Times reporter who had inquired about the potential closing of a famed climate research observatory. It's not an observatory. It was a very, very expensive vanity project, first of the Obama administration, because the Obama administration created a fake climate change museum. Remember, Barack Obama said that with his arrival, his godlike arrival, that was the moment at which the rise of the oceans began to slow and the planet began to heal. The globe began to heal. Those were lies, but the cheering crowd was very North Korean in their approval, their enthusiastic approval. That was an amazing moment. Nobody's ever, the Caesars never laid claim to such phenomenal power. But Barack Hussein Obama, certainly he was all about him.
This was the moment when the rise of the oceans began to slow and our planet began to heal. This was the moment.
Yeah, no, it didn't. None of that happened. But the New York Times, I think that actually was the press corps in the briefing room cheering like that. They were ecstatic. That means they were in ecstasy. The Climate Change Museum, which was started by the Obama administration, and then the Trump administration, last time around, said that's the stupidest thing to spend money on we've ever seen. It was early Doge, and they put an end to that. And then, so it was gone. And then when the lunatics in the Joe Biden administration came in, they said, hey, what happened to the Climate Change Museum was it in the Ronald Reagan building, downtown D.C.? So when the Trump administration came back in, they had to put an end to it again. And I got to say, this is no way to run a government, and it's certainly no way to run the government of the United States of America, where one radical left extremist cross-dressing administration comes in, and they claim that their mere presence will slow the rise of the oceans. If they just steal more of your stuff and tax you at a higher rate, then the weather will get better. And that is delusional, and it's mental, and it's perfectly typical of the Democrats. But the climate museum that the Democrats opened under Obama then shut down under Trump because it was ridiculous. And what was it? We found that fewer than 2,000 people, it was 1,900 and some odd people, actually visited the Democrats' climate museum. And the Doge people did a cost analysis of that, and they discovered that it cost more than, $340 per visitor to walk through the idiotic climate museum. And if you spent 30 seconds there walking through saying, nothing for us here, and walked out, hey, there's that polar bear on the ice shelf. Isn't that thing dead yet? Can we go hunt that damn thing? Give me the rifle, because what's it doing on that ice shelf? Leave that ice shelf alone. and the polar bears. So you walk in, you walk out, and that's $340-something to the taxpayer because the Democrats are mental. How do you think we got to be $36 trillion in debt? The answer is Democrats. Millions and millions of dollars to open this idiotic museum that nobody goes to, that costs hundreds of dollars per visitor. You don't even get a nice steak dinner with it or anything like that. But these people, just great. And it was free, by the way. It was free. If you walked in, it was free to you. But the taxpayer had like $340-something for everybody that walked through. Aren't they amazing? And they're proud of that. And they wanted to put on a transgender play in Guatemala, so they took more of our money for that. These people. All right, let's get to President Trump, because a lot happened yesterday, and we opened up with President Trump talking to, he was the National Republican Congressional Campaign Committee people, and he talked about not wanting to outsource our jobs and stand up for the man on Main Street instead of the man on Wall Street, and talking about the middle class being an area of interest for him as opposed to the political class. And that's true. He doesn't come from the political class, does he? And he's always been a wealthy guy. He's been a wealthy guy that works with construction companies and unions and putting up skyscrapers in New York. And then the Democrats scream that he's broke. He's got his own 757 that he flies around in, and he lands and takes motorcades of limousines, even before he was president, to skyscrapers with his name on the top. And the Democrats insist that he doesn't have a penny to his name because everything they say and do is a lie. Now, he's talking about the trade issues that the United States, it turns out the United States has trade issues with countries all over the world, including a lot of our allies, where we do a lot of trade with the UK and with the European Union, a bunch of countries together. We do with communist China, with a billion slaves that they could care less about the humanity of the billion slaves. And President Trump but we come out on the losing end of every agreement, and it costs us. It costs us jobs, communities, cities, towns are devastated by the economic collapse caused by a billion slaves in communist China and so on. And President Trump yesterday, this was good stuff from the president, and he's paying attention, and he's on our side, which is a terrible thing when it comes to the Democrats. The Democrats are fighting to make sure that everything goes badly in the United States under Donald Trump, because that would be good for the Democrats. And their priority is, of course, the Democrats.
This is the largest transaction in the history of our country. And don't let some of these politicians go around saying, because I'm telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my ass. They are dying to make a deal. Please, sir, make a deal. I'll do anything. Sir.
I'll do anything. These country after country calling up the White House, and they're kissing up to him, and they're trying to change the terms of our trade relations, because President Trump has said, "Hey, wait a minute, we're getting ripped off all over the place." And the National Republican Congressional Committee gathering, and a lot of people there because they're Republicans. Democrats, they'd be self-immolating in the audience, but Republicans are laughing because they realize that he does a lot of shtick built into his political speech. And President Trump.
And then I'll see some rebel Republican, some guy that wants to grandstand, say the Congress should take over negotiations. Let me tell you, you don't negotiate like I negotiate. Congress takes over negotiating. Sell America fast because you're going to go busted. You don't. I just saw it today. A couple of your congressmen said, I think we should get involved in the negotiation of the tariffs. Oh, that's what I need. I need some guy telling me how to negotiate.
Honestly, who negotiated these terrible deals in the first place? Raise your hand if you were involved in negotiating these terrible deals in the first place. All these deals where we come out on the losing end of every one. So the president of the National Republican Congressional Committee gathering, and it was a lot of fun for everyone except for the Democrats because they're. And then tariffs on China, and China is fighting back. And the Democrats, they've got China's back here, and China knows that the Democrats have their back. The communists, I should say, Xi Jinping, Ricochet Rabbit, and all the commies with all their slaves, they know that the Democrat Party has their back in the United States because the Democrat Party is here to undermine the United States of America, to undermine the president, the elected president, to undermine the Republican Party. And if President Trump succeeds, which I expect he will, in all of these matters of international trade, then that would be terrible for the Democrat Party. And all they want is to take back the House of Representatives in the midterm elections, or sooner if they can. And they're not above anything. Remarkable stuff. So President Trump on China.
That's why additional tariffs on Chinese goods are in place effective midnight tonight at 104%. Until they make a deal with us, that's what it's going to be. I think they'll make a deal at some point. China will. They want to make a deal. They really do. They want to make a deal. They just don't know how to get it started because they're proud people. China will now pay a big number to our Treasury.
Big number to our Treasury, and we are taking in many, many billions of dollars. More billions of dollars would be good any time. President Trump, but look, this is a little patience, and we're not good at patience. The left wants to fan the flames of impatience for all of their crazy gun-toting, self-immolating plotting with Ukrainians, get a rocket-propelled grenade Democrats, and there are more and more of them, apparently. President Trump also talking about the poor Democrats having a mental breakdown, which is an ongoing issue, and their favorite, one of their favorite people, Jasmine Crockett, who's a fraud and a sham and a scamster in private Catholic school with all of her BS. President Trump last night on Jasmine Crockett.
The Democrats have taken a lot of beatings. They have lost their confidence. They've gone crazy. They've gone crazy. How about this new one they have? Their new star, Crockett. How about her? Is that real? Are they serious about that? That's their new star? If that's their new star, they're in serious trouble. They've taken a lot of beatings, and now they're going to rely on Crockett to bring them back.
Yeah, honestly, for them, it's like politics for them are like a party in Beverly Hills where maybe Hunter Biden's Malibu, where everybody drops their car keys into a fish bowl when they walk into the party. Then they do a bunch of coke and smoke a bunch of dope, and they go home with whoever. The Democrat Party is, you guys can do what you want. You just shouldn't be in charge of anything. And a big reason that you shouldn't be in charge of anything is because you're obviously not on our side. The United States of America. You're not even on the side of civilization at this point. Stop firebombing stuff, all right? Just a thought.
We done picking cotton.
Ah, yes. Okay, a great deal of fun coming up. President Trump was having a good time yesterday. Let's go to the telephones now, Michael. Let's go to Jason calling from Kensington, Maryland. Jason, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hey, g'day, Chris. How you going, mate?
Hey, I'm great.
Yeah, these tariff things, I was just talking to my mate in Australia, and so I think it looks like we're going to be into a regime change there pretty soon, because they've all been sort of inspired by what Trump's done over here with the government waste and the tariffs. I mean, they're all kind of freaking out about the tariffs, but my sister's a beef farmer out there, and she's not all that worried because most of the beef goes locally anyway, but the current government is terrible. It's sort of like Biden 2.0, or Biden down under, they call him, and just absolutely awful. You know, pro-China, pro-woke, everything like that. And the first week of May's the election, and there's a good indication that they might be out, because I've already talked to people at the embassy, and they're sort of getting ready for change already. So, and it's all been sort of Trump inspired, because I've sort of seen what he's achieved over here, and fast-tracked a lot of government, bureaucracy and all that, and they say, well, that can be done, and they're going to be hopefully changing and taking back the port of Darwin, which is owned by China, which is on a 99-year lease, and I think they're going to take the port back once the government changes as well. So,
really? The Chinese have taken over the port of Darwin?
Yes, they had a 99-year lease, which was arranged with a previous government back in the early 2000s, and they basically control what came and went, through Darwin, and they can really sort of mess up our trade there. But I think when the new government comes in, they're actually going to rescind that whole deal, which is going to be good, because it's sort of like what happened with you guys over here with Panama,
right?
But Darwin is sort of basically our gateway to Asia, so that'll be good. But he has inspired a lot of talk out there in Australia of what can be done when you cut through all the bureaucracy and all of this, BS of, government regulations and tax. I mean, we're the most over-regulated country in the world, and we have all the resources, but the local Australians are paying some of the highest utility rates in the world, and yet we have the resources right there, and everybody's starting to, run out of money, and then they're going broke, and 7 out of 10 businesses fail because of government regulations, and it's, they've had enough.
Wow, 7 out of 10. I got to tell you, and I'm glad to hear this. I'm very happy to hear this, Jason, and I haven't been focused on it at all, I will confess. But it's about time that we of Western civilization started standing up for Western civilization and for free market capitalism and for level playing fields. And it's time we stood up against communist China, which has every intention of dominating the world.